Paramedics in Montgomery County had a busy night after heroin sent a dozen people to the hospital in just 5 hours.
The heat is on across the Bluegrass State. I'm tracking a late season surge of summer coming up.
Most of my time before class was spent just finding a parking spot.
Classes are back in session and students fighting the traffic and the tow companies for parking around campus.
This is WKYT News at 5:30.
Good evening and thanks for watching tonight. Another community is in shock after a rash of drug overdoses. 12 people ended up in the hospital in Mount Sterling just last night.
Now, this follows 24 overdoses reported in Huntington, 30 in Cincinnati, and several cases in Winchester and Danville. Police departments across the region are warning about a deadly batch of heroin on the streets. Victor Puentes in Montgomery County with our top story at 5:30.
In a span of 5 hours, 12 people overdosed on heroin in Montgomery County. Paramedics are warning users and their families that a deadly batch of heroin is making its way across the county. The calls began Wednesday night and led to a Facebook post by the sheriff early Thursday morning, warning heroin users of a dangerous batch that had been brought into the county. Paramedics spent the night taking people to St. Joseph Mount Sterling, and that high volume put a strain on their resources.
We only have a limited number of personnel, limited number of trucks, so getting multiple calls stacked on top of each other makes it rough to handle them all at once.
Jackson said they could have called neighboring counties if there had been any more overdoses. He said it's possible the drugs those people took had been mixed with something else.
They know their limit. Would they get we'll say a batch that's laced with something or a higher potency or concentration of the drug, and their body's just not used to it, and they take the same amount, there's going to be an adverse reaction.
One of those people died, and since then they've had several more calls. He said they weren't taken by surprise because of recent spikes in overdoses in other cities, including 60 over 2 days in Cincinnati.
You know, the drug routes of how drugs get to your communities, it comes from larger cities, either from out of states to the smaller cities.
Jackson said they're suggesting that the family members of people who may be addicted to heroin purchase Narcan, which can be bought over the counter and can counteract the effects of an overdose. In Montgomery County, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Jackson also said the county normally sees 1 or 2 overdoses on any given day.
Murder charges have been dropped against 2 suspects. Our county-by-county coverage at 5:30 begins in Knox County. William Lester and Amanda Hoskins were arrested in 2012 for the murder of Catherine Mills of Flat Lick. Police say Mills was beaten to death in 2010. Robbery and murder charges against Lester and Hoskins were dismissed by the Commonwealth on Monday. A third person in the case, Jonathan Taylor, had been cleared of charges last month. In Pike County, police recovered thousands of dollars worth of stolen property yesterday after a theft complaint led them on a chase. Employees at City Tire in Pikeville called officers after noticing some tires had been stolen off a rack. Officers found the truck matching the employee's description, and when they attempted to stop it, they say a woman got out while a man moved to the driver's seat and then took off.
We chased him up in there at a low rate of speed, 40, 45 miles per hour. He got to a dirt road, which went back into the Chloe area.
Officers later found and arrested 24-year-old Brandon Dameron and charged him with receiving stolen property and fleeing police. During the chase, police say the woman who got out of the truck led them to the stolen tires, among other items, including TVs and computers. Police did not charge her. A traffic alert in Scott County. Rolling roadblocks will be in place over next week to allow crews to work on the interstate interchange. The roadblocks will be in place on I-75 at mile marker 127 from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday through Thursday of next week. Crews will be placing beams for an overpass they have to build. The new interchange is expected to open to traffic in mid-December.
We're feeling a surge of heat out there in the Bluegrass, and along with that rise in temperatures, we could also see a rise in the daily threat of thunderstorms. So let's check in now with our chief meteorologist, Chris Bailey. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Sam, we've been down this road several times before this summer. It's the summer that will not quit. Although we had a little break early this week, it was just kind of gathering steam for what we're dealing with now, where we're going over the next week. Currently, 88 Jackson, 90 London, 91 capital of Frankfort, capital of Kentucky. That is the city of Frankfort. Lakeford and into downtown Lexington at 91 degrees as well. Humidity into the mix, though. It feels mid to upper 90s just about everywhere we look now. 95 Lexington. Look at Covington. 98 is what it feels like into the northern parts of the area. Ashland checking in with a 98-degree feels like number, and so is Danville. Your Defender Radar Network earlier had a couple of spotty thunderstorms southern Kentucky. Right now, a lot of that action is into the volunteer state of Tennessee. What is down there is going to gradually lift its way a little farther to the north as we go into the next few days. Now, for what else is out there this evening, most air, 99.9% of us will stay dry with temperatures into the 80s right on through 9 o'clock. By 11 o'clock, it's the steamy upper 70s that show up. Guys, when I come back in a few minutes, we will talk about that all-important weekend forecast, final weekend of August. We've got you covered in a few.
Woodford County set to gain over 200 jobs as Midway welcomes a new company. Lakeshore Learning Materials Incorporated is a developer and retailer of educational aids. They're investing over $47 million in the construction of a distribution center at the Midway Station Industrial Complex. Midway's mayor says the move comes after 6 months of work.
We were able to meet with the company and show them the site and kind of go over numbers with them and explain to them why we thought Midway was a great fit for them. And in the end, we beat out 4 other states and another site here in Kentucky.
It's pretty impressive. They expect to be operational within 262 full-time employees by November of next year. Okay, this is the first week of classes at the University of Kentucky, and one of the first challenges for new students, finding a parking space.
You can get a little hairy for sure. Tow truck companies say this is peak towing season. Students having trouble finding a spot often end up parked illegally. Miranda Combs has more in a story that's new at 5:30.
It is about to be lunchtime. Usually like around this time it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find parking because everyone's already in class or leaving class.
Kirsten Unger is trying to get through this traffic so she can make it to class on time.
Last semester was my first semester here, and most of my time before class was spent just finding a parking spot. Where I like to park is that block right behind Raising Cane's.
During the first week of school, most students are just trying to literally fit in. With an influx of cars in and around campus, some say finding a place to park can be a challenge.
What parking that they do have is really crammed into nooks and crannies.
Lance Broking is with UK's Parking and Transportation. He says the first week of school will be about educating students where they can and cannot park.
If we enforce heavily during the second and third week of school, typically we'll see compliance a lot better.
This data provided to us by the University of Kentucky shows parking violations on campus property. You can see an increase in tows, boots, and citations over the 2 previous school years. And this is where Tyler Casey comes in.
Going around patrolling some apartment complexes, their parking lots for illegally parked vehicles.
By 10 o'clock this morning, Metro Towing had already towed 12 cars from one private lot.
This is a vehicle here that does not have a parking sticker on it.
Within a matter of minutes, Tyler makes this Ford Escape from this space. Back to Kirsten Unger, she found a spot while standing in line to get her UK parking tag. The only problem, it's a private lot, and here comes Metro Towing. Kirsten got lucky. She made it to her car in time, but she's still out $67. Her advice to other students:
Find a place where parking is readily available and then always park there. And always know how long you have left on your meter.
On UK's campus, Miranda Combs, WKYT.
Well, another way to beat the parking woes, catch the bus. Students and staff can ride Lexington for free with a UK ID card.
This Saturday marks 10 years since Comair Flight 5191 crashed just off of a runway at Bluegrass Airport, killing 49 people. There was only one survivor. Our good question tonight: what are the arrangements for members of the public who want to attend Saturday's service at 10 a.m.? It will be held again at the Arboretum near the Flight 5191 Memorial Sculpture. About 300 family members and friends of the crash victims are expected to attend on Saturday, but the public is being encouraged to come to the service. Families of the victims want to thank the community for all the support they received during those tragic days. Now, if you are planning to attend, you need to bring a lawn chair. There will only be seating on site for the family members and their friends. Parking will be available in lots near Commonwealth Stadium. Also, this is important, LexTran is offering free service to the Arboretum. The service is expected to last about an hour, and if you can't make it, WKYT will broadcast the service live starting at 10 a.m. To submit a good question, send an email to goodquestion@wkyt.com.
First responders in central Kentucky getting some practice during a mock tornado exercise. That story in about 6 minutes here on WKYT.
I'm Bill Bryant. The woman who led the investigation of the crash of Flight 5191 almost 10 years ago in Lexington talks with me on Kentucky Newsmakers. And the politicians turn out for the ham breakfast at the State Fair. The bottom line is ahead.
And later, a former Rowan County High School coach speaking out about allegations of hazing under his watch. We'll hear his side of the story coming up on WKYT News at 6 o'clock.
The woman who led the investigation into the crash of Flight 5191 says she'll never forget the community's caring and response to the families of the lost.
Bill Bryant has details in the bottom line.
Good evening. This weekend marks 10 years since the crash of Flight 5191 at Bluegrass Airport in Lexington. On August 27, 2006, the Comair flight took off from a runway that was too short for the commuter jet to get airborne. 49 of the 50 people on board were killed. Deborah Hersman was a member of the NTSB at that time. She was sent to Lexington to investigate the crash and to assure family members that they would get answers. She'll be back in Lexington for the public memorial service this weekend, and she spoke with me in an interview this morning for this weekend's Kentucky Newsmakers. She said she will never forget how much Lexington and all of Kentucky responded and cared after the crash.
There are so many amazing people, and they have taken from this tragedy so much goodness, and they have passed it on and they've paid it forward. And that's really a testament to the people that were lost and those that they loved, that they were able to make so many good things come out of this terrible event.
Also in Kentucky Newsmakers, former Lexington Mayor Teresa Isaac, who was in charge of city government at the time of the crash. Kentucky Newsmakers will air Sunday morning, and WKYT will bring you live coverage of the memorial service from the UK Arboretum Saturday morning at 10. Both of Kentucky's U.S. Senate candidates appeared at the Kentucky Farm Bureau ham breakfast at the State Fair in Louisville today. Democratic challenger Lexington Mayor Jim Gray and incumbent Republican Rand Paul worked the crowd, talked about agricultural issues. Governor Bevin and U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell were also there. And the winning ham was auctioned off. The Central Bank in Lexington, led by Luther Deaton, made the winning bid at $600,000, which will go to charity. The Bevin administration appointed a new director of alcohol beverage control today. Paul Joseph Vito is a former ATF agent. And with 75 days until the presidential election, things are heating up even more on the campaign trail. The latest on that from CBS News at 6:30. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
More than 100 first responders practicing for a disaster in Lincoln County, hoping that it gets them ready for the real thing. Lincoln County Emergency Management hosted a mock tornado event at the local fairgrounds. High school students played the victims, and paramedics and EMTs used a triage system with color-coded flags to help determine which victims needed what kind of care. Officials say they chose a tornado situation because severe weather events have happened during recent county fairs.
We generally have about 3,000 people a night, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. Every opportunity we have to train for those situations, then we want to take advantage of.
The student victims were treated at the scene and then taken to the local hospital, where doctors and nurses took part in the mock exercise as well.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
You know, our sky looks really good out there, then all of a sudden you step outside and you get a little 1-2 punch. First punch from the temperature, second punch coming at you from the humidity across the land. And so it's 91, that's that first punch. There's the humidity, and the second one makes it 95 for the feels like number. That's what you're going to be encountering. That's what your body thinks the temperature is, courtesy of the humidity. Actual temperature readings right now, upper 80s, low 90s, depending on where you are. And it's going to be a slow drop this evening toward the upper 70s by late evening. Still feels like 98 degrees in Danville, most areas with that heat index deep into the 90s. We could hit 100 for a heat index over the next few days. A little thunderstorm into Bell County is gone. Parts of Tennessee getting in on a little more cloud cover and a scattered shower thunderstorm. And this is what we're going to be dealing with as we go toward the weekend. Moisture is going to increase a bit around here for Saturday and Sunday on that southwesterly flow. And then we've got a little weak front that is into the mix as well. It's going to dive in here. Never going to clear the area, but it may get close enough to pull up some of this. That's a pretty good little pipeline of some moisture now aimed into the Ozarks from parts of Louisiana. Folks down here, bless their hearts, do not need any more rain. And some of that, again, is going to try to make its way into our part of the world over the next few days. If you're out this evening, that much teeny tiny shot for a thunderstorm with temperatures dropping into the upper 70s. What about tomorrow evening, high school football fans? It's going to be sweaty. It's going to be steamy. If you're manning the concession stand tomorrow night, you know what? Plan on giving away or having a lot of ice ready because folks are going to be there. 85, 86 degrees at kickoff. It's going to feel 90 to 95. By the fourth quarter, still muggy, upper 70s to around 80. Need to do a little yard work. And over the next few days, it's pretty much the same old, same old. Upper 80s with a storm chance each and every day, Friday into Saturday and into Sunday. So plan accordingly. Try to do it in the morning or late in the evening to beat the heat. Late summer is going out, guns blazing with those steamy thermometers. We go into the day tomorrow, 70-ish to begin our morning, low 90s tomorrow afternoon with an isolated shower or a thunderstorm. There's a little better shot of some juice that arrives over the weekend. That doesn't mean it's going to just rain all the time. Some of you may not even see a thunderstorm over the next 2 or 3 days. But when it does, with so much moisture in the air, some heavier downpours will be a possibility. Here's the same forecast we were giving you for the better part of August. Outside of the past 3 or 4 days, it's back, and that rolls into early September. The question is, will this roll all the way into Labor Day weekend? What's the over-under on it, huh? What do you think? 90? It's possible, I think, as we go into Labor Day weekend. Depends on what happens in the tropics.
We let you make those kinds of
I know. I still got a week to play with that forecast and try to improve on it.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
The Coach Cal's Celebrity Softball Classic is this weekend, and today Cal making the announcement that proceeds from the event will help those in need in Louisiana. Because Rupp Arena is undergoing work this summer, there will not be an alumni basketball game. Instead, Calipari is inviting back former UK athletes for a softball game Sunday. Cal says the proceeds will help the Red Cross effort in Baton Rouge.
You know, the more you're watching and, you know, this thing is looking like a Sandy disaster, almost worse than that. We're going to go through Red Cross, so the foundation will give any money that's raised, it will go directly to the Red Cross, all the proceeds from it.
Calipari said that Terrence Jones and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist have been added to Sunday's roster, and he's hopeful that Anthony Davis will be able to make it. Cal also said in case of a rainout, those fans who buy tickets will be allowed to watch an open practice instead. Coming up at 6 o'clock, Calipari talks about Derek Willis and his brush with the law in June. Cal says Willis is under a watchful eye now. That's coming up a little bit later at 6 o'clock. Well, the Wildcats are just getting off the practice field, and they wrap up an afternoon session at the new training facility. Mark Stoops feels his defensive secondary is the strongest part of his team, and one of the reasons is sophomore corner Derek Beatty. Beatty came in last year as a true freshman, played in all 12 games, starting the last 4. He likes to play physical, and he says he can tell when there's a receiver who doesn't want to get hit.
The dancers at the line. Yeah. Like, they don't want to get touched at all. So I'm thinking, like, I got to beat them to their point. So I got to hit them first and don't let them go.
Describe a dancer.
Someone who's constantly moving at the line. Like, he's doing all the head fakes and stuff, but I can't get my focus out there. I got to keep my eyes on his hips. And then once the opportunity presents itself, strike.
Those are the pretty boys, right?
Yeah, pretty boys. They don't want to get touched.
That sports will continue right after the break. Stay with us.